Again for the story time as I drive around waffling on to my heart's content. So I thought I'd talk about the story of how I became to be sat in an M2 2025 individual about a month and a bit after placing the order, but also the new versus used buying experience, pitfalls, that kind of thing. There'll be some people going, "Oh man, this is all, everyone knows this is all common knowledge. Blah, 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 blah. Everyone should know." It's not. The thing is, not everybody knows what you know, right? That's not how it works, right? There's some things that you think are like a common knowledge are just not. So yeah, I'm saying a lot of things that just aren't necessarily new, but not everyone knows it. So yeah, it's just going to be story time, me waffling on. You can watch it if you want. I'm just going to chuck it up and there you go. So yeah, I placed the order for this back in sort of early October, I think. And I picked it up sort of mid to late November, and a lot of people are waiting sort of 4 or 5 months for theirs to arrive, and they're like, how the hell have you done that? So I'll talk about that, but also I originally bought a used one, then changed over to a new one for very little cost difference, which surprised me actually. So I'll talk about that as well. And this is for the UK market, right? It may be very different in the US. In fact, I've just been on the US configurator this morning, and wow, you guys get nickeled and dimed big time. You really do. A lot of the things that we get as standard are just optional extras for you, like shadow line lights, right? The professional nav, heated steering wheel, it's just all standard here in the UK. But you guys get, configurator is different. It's worse in the US. But anyway, so yeah, this is my story. This is how I came to be sat in here. So around September, sort of mid to late September, I went up to the BMW dealership with a wife. It was Lloyd's in Newcastle. I wasn't going out to buy an M2. It was actually a Z4 M40i I was going up to look at. So I'd done no research on the M2 whatsoever. I hadn't even thought about it at all. Got to the dealership and there was a sapphire black M2 with bicolour wheels, Vinasca leather, sat outside the main doors of the dealership, so everyone walked past it. And the second I saw it, I was like, uh-oh. That's a weapon. And the wife looked at it, she was like, that's lethal. And I was like, yeah, oh shit, oh man, what's happening here? So I took it out for a test drive, and just obviously fell in love with it on the test drive. It was amazing to drive, and I've been driving a 2019 Q7 for the last 2 years, which I'm not going to get into that story now, but it is borderline and it's criminal how that was allowed to go into production. The way that thing drives, it was dangerous. So yeah, driving, I've had an M4 for 4 years, and I'd missed driving a proper car, So yeah, it was like reacquainted with something that I'd missed for a while. So I got back to the dealership and started to reconcile the numbers in my head. I was like, right, well, it's nearly new. It's about 6 months old. I'll put an advert up on screen of something very similar to what I was about to buy. The same price, same age, same everything. It's nearly new. It's about 6 months old-ish. It's got 1,000 miles on it. M2's been out a year, and it's up for 56 grand, 770 a month, 9.9% APR. I'll put a 5.5 grand deposit down. It'll come out at about 770, 780 a month. I was like, I think I can make that work. So I went in to speak to the dealer, the car dealer, and the salesman was just really not accommodating at all. In fact, he was, it was bad. I had 3 grand negative equity in my Audi, and they just weren't even remotely interested in sort of doing as a deal on like maybe halving that or just taking care of a little bit of it. It was like, look, you're gonna have to cover the 3 grand, put 5.5 down, and then you've got your M2. He didn't upsell us to a new one or anything. He was just like, that's it. And I was okay, right, yeah. I loved the car. It was lethal. So I was like, right, I'll do it. Placed the order. Happy, absolutely buzzing. I was going to pick it up the next week. On the way out of the dealership, I was speaking to the wife. I was like, look, this is not my first rodeo. I've done this dance before. Like, I don't want to feel like I've missed out on something. So we took a drive down to Virtue in Sunderland, where I'd not long recently been. I'd went down to buy a Z4 M40i, which had already been sold. Long story, but yeah, they were really apologetic and felt quite bad for us that I went down to buy this car and I wasn't there. But that meant they knew that I was in the market and that I had money to buy a car with, so they were prepared to give us some of their time. So I spoke to the same salesman that I spoke to when I went to buy the Z4, and I was like, look, I've just bought this at Lloyd's, and he was like, so is the one you bought, the LCI? And I was like, the LC what now? The what? There's been an LCI. He was like, yeah. The M2's like literally just gone through an LCI. Fucking salesman at Lloyd's didn't say a peep about it. Now you could argue he doesn't need to, but like I'm the kind of person that like the second I heard that I was like, I'm cancelling the order. Like I just felt done dirty big time, and I'm not spending that kind of money on a car that's already out of date. Like I'm not. It's just not. It's not even a question. It's not happening. So I sat down with the guy in Sunderland, Virtue, and he was like, look, we don't have any used ones that match that. In the LCI, there's just obviously none kicking about. It's a brand new LCI, so they haven't arrived yet. So I'll see what I can do you for a new one. I was like, but yeah, they're 10, 15 grand more than what I've just paid for, what I've signed up to. And he was like, just bear with me. He was like, I can see what I can do. Because with used cars, you're buying a fixed asset. The dealer buys it, adds a margin, and sells it for a profit. That's it, right? There's just no wiggle room anywhere. So with new cars though, they've got a lot of wiggle room for manipulating numbers and whatnot, and offers and concessions and stuff. So, long story short, right, and it is a bit of a long story. I went, I placed an order for one, like a new one, and the BMW system had the VIN number wrong in the system, so I actually ordered a non-LCI, and so long story short, right, I can't miss once to mention I can cancel this bong by holding down set. Oh mate, you're a legend. Holding down set on the steering wheel, cancel the speed limit bong. Right. So long story short, what I've ended up with is a new M2, 0 miles, for about the same price as I've just bought the used one for. How the hell does that happen? And how the hell have I got it so quickly? Right. This is the UK. Whether the US is the same, I don't know, but I'm from the UK, so that's all I can speak of. But the dealerships have got a network of like a portal, right, where they can see all of the cars that every dealership in the UK has ordered. So the dealerships place the order for a stock car. They'll configure it themselves, place the order, and it gets shipped over, and then they'll sell that as a new car when it gets here. So when a customer asks for a new car, they go, well, actually, we've got one in. You can have that one instead of waiting 6 months or whatever. So they can see every one of these cars that are coming in. So he does the filter, he puts it down to M2, and I see every single M2 that's coming into the country within the next 1 or 2 months. So there's Sapphire Blacks, there's Java Greens, there's Sao Paulo Yellows, there's the Grigios coming in, Frozen Portimao Blue, right, all of them, I can see them all. In the UK, the spec of the M2 is very fixed, right? There's not a lot you can option in. So I had a set list of requirements that I wanted, right? I wanted the Vinasca leather, which I couldn't get, unfortunately, but I'm not prepared to wait for just a fucking coloured bit of stitching on the seats. But I wanted a carbon roof, I wanted the gloss black wheels, I wanted the carbon trim, red calipers. I guess that's it really. There's not a lot else that I would have wanted. Harman Kardon standard. So at this point I was still sort of in the market for a Sapphire Black, but I was having second thoughts about it. And then I did a bit of research and I found out by this point, because this is in between like this point and placing the original order for the used one, a couple of weeks have gone by, but I'd done my research and I found out that they're doing it in Grigio. Now I've got a bit of history with Grigio. I've never owned a car in Grigio, but when I bought my original M4, I was Googling images of M4s and stuff, and I came across a couple of utterly stunning M4s which were done in Grigio Medio, which is Italian for medium grey. Grigio Telesto is Italian for pale grey. But these Grigios were stunning. So Grigio Telesto is the Lamborghini colour, and Grigio Medio is the Ferrari colour. And I loved them. I couldn't get the M4 in those colours though. I don't know how people did it, whether they resprayed them or if it was a special order, I don't know. But it wasn't an individual colour at the time. So when I saw the M2 was available in Telesto, I was like, that's it. That's the one. This is like a 7-year-long sort of fantasy of getting an M car in like a Telesto Grigio colour. So I went back to the dealership and I was like, right, can we look at this system again? So he brings up the list. But at this point, I still have a Sapphire Black on order coming in, which is brand new. So we changed the order. We picked one of the Grigio. There was 2 Grigios on the system due to arrive. One was coming in December, one was coming in November. And the one coming in December had like the Alcantara steering wheel. I think it might have silver wheels or something, I don't know, but I wanted gloss black wheels. the specs lined up, so I went for that one. But by this point, you have to bear in mind, right, that I went up to the dealership to buy a Z4 which had been sold. I then placed an order for a sapphire black new one, which 2 weeks later the salesman rang us and he says, look, we've ordered you the wrong car, it's not an LCI. And then after sort of changing the order, he rings us again, he says there's been a shipping delay and now it's going to be another month longer. So the dealership were well aware that they're pushing my buttons, right, and my patience is running thin. So to sweeten the deal, and they can do this with new cars, they take care of my finance, right, for the Audi. So they're taking care of the £3,000 negative equity. They also threw in the M Performance service plan for free. That's £2,000. The service on these cars is fucking eye-watering. They also throw in the 3-year tyre and alloy insurance, which I've used every time I've had that. I've used it to the max. 10 refurbs every time. And also the Paint Protect X, which is not nonsense. The fucking paint guard, blah blah blah. Just shut up. Just shut up. You don't do anything to the paint. It's not a thing. Just shut up. So anyway, they throw in all these negative equity, performance service plan, insurance, all that kind of stuff, and I'm still, it's on 4.9% APR as well, and I'm paying the same monthly payment as I would have done for just buying a used car, and I would have started drop £3,000 to clear the equity. And it's all because they can, right, they get deposits from BMW, like deposit allowances, all that kind of stuff. They can fiddle the numbers and stuff. So yeah, he got me into a new one for about £780 a month. When I changed it to the Grigio, though, I had to put in the extra money to pay for the individual paint, because that's an extra £3,000 on top of everything else that had been offered. So there was a limit to what they could do, and I was like, right, well, I'll put an extra £1,000 in. So my deposit went up to £6,500, and then my monthly payments went up by about 20 to 25 quid a month, something like that. Because at an individual paint, it's not necessarily the sort of one-to-one, £3,000, £4,000 over 4 years, right? The residual value of the car does go up a little bit. The residual values, I mean, I don't know how there's not some kind of sort of regulatory body investigation into residual prices, because they're an absolute scam. Residual prices are more, well, equally as important as the actual sale price of a car. The dealership has just got to raise the residual by a couple of grand, or lower it by a couple of grand, and the asking price means absolutely nothing, and they're just selling the same car, making money off the same car over and over and over again. It's absolutely criminal, but it helps you get into a more expensive car. So it swings and roundabouts. But so yeah, putting the individual paint on raises the residual by a little bit. So yeah, extra grand deposit, about 20 quid a month more. So for 8-10 a month, I think it is, or 8.5, something like that. I can't remember. I've landed myself a brand new delivery mileage M2 in Grigio Telesto, which I picked up within sort of 6 weeks because it was on the pre-order list. It was actually coming into Sytner and Sheffield, I think it was. So because I said they could see the entire dealer network, it was coming into Sytner, Sheffield. They pre-ordered this one. So what the dealerships can do is they can ring each other up and say, look, I can see you've got this M2 on order. Is it sold yet? Is it reserved to a customer? No. Right, can we have it? What's in it for us? What do you want? Well, we've got a customer that's looking for an X5 and we don't have an X5. Do you want to do a deal? So Virtue swapped Sytner and M5 for this, and I got the allocation of it, and because it was already on order, I got it really early. So yeah, I don't know whether that national sort of network of dealer pre-orders is available anywhere else, but in the UK, it might not even, you might not even be allowed. It might have been a case of like they let me look at it because of the issues that had happened to that point. I don't know, but that's how I came about to have this. Exactly the spec I wanted. The only thing I had to compromise on was the Finalizing leather, but I'm not that bothered about it. The blue stitching seats actually look pretty good, and I got it pretty soon. If I'd went to the configurator and picked my own, the only things I would have changed, I would have put Alcantara steering wheel in and the Finalizing leather, but I'm not prepared to wait another 4 months on a build to order, waiting for that to arrive. So yeah, it sucks for people who are waiting as long as they are to get theirs. But you've done a build to order. Whether you're aware of this network system of pre-ordered vehicles, I don't know. And just to be clear, when I'm not talking about pre-registered, these are pre-ordered. My M4 that I bought in 2018 was pre-registered, so that was ordered in. The dealership had to register it. It had 100 miles on the clock when I bought it, but I got a 15 grand deposit, 15 grand off on the M4. It's crazy how prices have gone. It really is mental. In 2018, I paid 56,000 for a 5-month-old M4. I'll put the advert on the screen. That car there was 5 months old when I bought it, 100 miles on the clock. I was the second owner because the dealership was the first owner. and I got it for 56 grand. If you look at what M4s are going for now, similar deal, 6 months old, 100 miles, they're over 70 grand. Right, they're well over 70 grand. The pricing's gone mental. This M2 costs more than my pretty much new M4 cost back in 2018. It's insane what's going on with the prices. So yeah, so I'm just tootling around telling a story. I still, if you think, oh, drive the car, I can't. I'm doing the running period, man. I can't take it above 4,000 revs. You know, you've got to be really careful with these cars. You've got to be really careful with these cars in the running period. If you don't adhere to the running service schedule, you'll void your warranty. I was being told a story by the dealership when I was there last week of a guy who bought a new M4. He allegedly, I call BS on this, but he was allegedly not informed by the dealership that he was supposed to have a running service at 1,200 miles. Don't know how you miss the service bongs every single time you turn the car on, but you know, maybe he didn't know how important it was. But he didn't get the running service done until 2,100 miles, something like that. Immediately voids his warranty, and his M4, which is about 6 months old, is absolutely worthless. The dealership will not take it off him, but I don't. When I touch that, it's the warranty's void. He didn't get the service done at the right time. So and you've got to drive the car really carefully up until that point. So I'm just, the reason I'm just driving about like this is just to get the miles on so I can get that service done. But yeah, that's my story. If you're thinking about getting an M2 or any kind of new BMW or used BMW, just consider the new ones. There's a lot of wiggle room with numbers. You know, if you've got negative equity in your car, when it comes to buying a new one, they can potentially clear it. Used cars, there's not a lot they can do. So anyway, that's my story. I'm still over the moon with this car, absolutely buzzing with it. And yeah, I'll make a few more videos on it as time goes by. Don't know if anyone's going to watch this one either. Just going to chuck it up and see what happens. But if you've listened, thanks very much. I'll see you in the next one, maybe. Doodles.